technology's hidden role in historical tragedies. The interplay between technology and human history is often framed as a narrative of progress. Yet beneath this triumphalist veneer lies a darker truth. Technological advancements have frequently amplified or directly enabled catastrophes. By dissecting specific cases in greater depth, we uncover systemic failures, ethical blind spots, and the unintended consequences of innovation. Below is an expanded exploration of how technology has shaped and sometimes precipitated historical tragedies. Warfare and genocide, industrializing destruction. Holocaust logistics, the machinery of mass murder. The Holocaust's efficiency relied on a chilling synergy of ideology and technology. Rail networks. The Third Reich repurposed Europe's extensive railway infrastructure, originally built for economic growth, to transport millions to extermination camps. Trains operated with bureaucratic precision, coordinated by the Deutsche Reichsbahn, German railway, which charged the SS per kilometer per victim. This commodification of human life underscores how neutral infrastructure can be weaponized. Data management. IBM's Hollerith punch card machines, leased to Nazi Germany, automated the categorization of victims by religion, ethnicity, and other traits. This system enabled the rapid identification and deportation of Jewish populations, Roma, and others. IBM's role, long obscured, highlights corporate complicity in genocide. Zyklon B. Developed as a pesticide by IG Farben, a conglomerate including Bayer and BASF, hydrogen cyanide pellets were repurposed for gas chambers. The chemical industry's profit-driven collaboration with the regime exemplifies how scientific innovation can be perverted for atrocity. Colonial exploitation, infrastructure as oppression. British railroads in India, colonial railways, touted as symbols of modernity, prioritized exporting cash crops like cotton and opium over feeding local populations. During the 1943 Bengal famine, trains continued shipping grain to British troops while millions starved. Economist Amartya Sen later argued that famines are rarely about food scarcity, but rather distribution, a failure exacerbated by colonial technologies. Belgian Congo rubber terror. King Leopold II's brutal rubber extraction regime relied on steamships and railways to transport resources. The Force Publique used modern rifles to enforce quotas, severing hands of workers who fell short. Here, industrial tools enabled both resource extraction and systemic violence. Industrial disasters, when profit overrides safety. Bhopal gas tragedy, 1984, a nightmare of negligence. The world's worst industrial disaster stemmed from a cascade of technological and ethical failures. Defective design. The Union Carbide plant stored thousands of tons of methyl isocyanate, MIC, a lethal chemical, in bulk tanks. Cost-cutting eliminated safety redundancies, such as refrigeration systems to stabilize MIC. Human error. On the night of the leak, a faulty valve allowed water into an MIC tank, triggering an exothermic reaction. Safety systems, flare towers, scrubbers, and alarms were either malfunctioning or switched off. Legacy of suffering. Over 15,000 died immediately, and 500,000 plus suffered lifelong disabilities. Groundwater contamination persists, yet corporate accountability remains elusive. Bhopal epitomizes how deregulation and technological hubris endanger marginalized communities. Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, 1911. Locked doors and locked futures. Flammable conditions. The factory's cramped floors were filled with fabric scraps, oil, and wooden tables. Fire exits were locked to prevent theft, trapping workers, mostly young immigrant women, inside. Technological irony. While firefighting technology, e.g. water pumps, existed, the building's fire escapes collapsed under the weight of fleeing workers. The tragedy galvanized labor reforms, exposing how industrial growth often outpaces worker protections. Environmental catastrophes progress as ecological sabotage. The Dust Bowl, 1930s, farming the desert. Mechanized plowing, gasoline-powered tractors enabled farmers to strip millions of acres of native prairie grasses which had anchored topsoil. Combined with drought, this led to apocalyptic dust storms that buried towns and displaced 2.5 million people. Economic pressures. The 1862 Homestead Act and 1920s crop surpluses incentivized unsustainable farming. Technology here became a tool of ecological short-termism, prioritizing yield over resilience. DDT and the Silent Spring, 1960s, poisoned utopia. Rachel Carson's Silent Spring, 1962, exposed how DDT, hailed as a miracle pesticide, entered the food chain, causing bird die-offs and human cancers. The chemical's stability, once marketed as a virtue, became its curse, persisting in ecosystems for decades. Legacy. The DDT crisis birthed modern environmentalism, illustrating how technological solutions often create new problems when divorced from ecological understanding. Transportation and infrastructure. Speed, hubris, and vulnerability. RMS Titanic, 1912. The myth of unsinkability. Flawed design. The Titanic's watertight compartments lacked vertical ceiling, allowing water to spill over bulkheads. Only 20 lifeboats were carried, capacity 1,178, though the ship held 2,224 people. A decision driven by aesthetics and overconfidence. Communication failures. Wireless operators prioritized passenger telegrams over iceberg warnings. Nearby ships like the Californian had their radios off. The disaster reveals how human complacency magnifies technological risk. Spanish flu, 1918 to 1920, rails, ships, and pandemic velocity. World War I troop movements via railroads and steamships transformed a localized outbreak into a global pandemic. Soldiers crammed into trains became vectors, while wartime censorship suppressed public health warnings. The death toll, 50 to 100 million, underscores how mobility technologies can accelerate biological disasters. Technological hubris and systemic failures. Chernobyl, 1986, the cost of secrecy. RBMK reactor flaws. Soviet reactors lacked containment structures and had a positive void coefficient, a design that allowed power to surge dangerously during a shutdown. Human arrogance. Operators disabled safety systems to conduct a risky turbine test. The resulting explosion released 400 times the radiation of Hiroshima, contaminating 150,000 kilometers squared. Chernobyl epitomizes how authoritarian regimes suppress dissent and prioritize propaganda over safety. Challenger disaster, 1986, bureaucracy over science. Engineers at Morton Thiokol warned that cold weather would compromise O-ring seals on the shuttle's boosters. NASA managers, pressured to maintain launch schedules, overruled them. The subsequent explosion killed 7 astronauts, revealing how institutional inertia can override technological prudence. 6. Unintended consequences. Innovation without foresight. China's Great Leap Forward, 1958 to 1962. Steel dreams, rural nightmares. Mao's collectivization campaign forced farmers into communes to operate backyard blast furnaces. Peasants melted tools and cookware into useless pig iron, crippling agriculture. Combined with droughts, this caused a famine, killing 15 to 45 million. The tragedy illustrates how top-down technocratic mandates can destabilize societies. Agent Orange in Vietnam, 1961-1971, herbicidal warfare. The U.S. military sprayed 20 million gallons of herbicides, including dioxin-laced Agent Orange, to defoliate jungles. The chemicals caused birth defects, cancers, and soil sterility, affecting 4.8 million Vietnamese and 2.8 million U.S. veterans. Decades later, cleanup remains incomplete, proving how militarized technologies can outlast their wars. Conclusion: reckoning with technology's shadow. These tragedies share common threads. Ethical vacuum. Technologies are often deployed without moral scrutiny, e.g. IBM's punch cards, Zyklon B. Systemic inequity. Disasters disproportionately harm marginalized groups, Bhopal's slum dwellers, colonial subjects. Hubris. Overconfidence in technological infallibility, Titanic, Challenger. Pathways forward. Precautionary principle. Prioritize safety over speed in innovation. Decentralized governance. Involve communities in technological decision-making. Historical literacy. Teach past failures to inform future policies. Technology is not neutral. It reflects the values and power structures of its creators. By confronting its hidden role in historical tragedies, we can forge a future where innovation serves humanity rather than subjugating it.